Hi everybody, I think we'll get started just because we've got a lot to cover today. So welcome to the Global Talent Programme, third session of this year in 2020. I think I've probably met most of you now, but just in case I haven't met you before, my name's Jenna Darlow and I'm the Global Talent Programme Officer here. So today we're going to be talking about global employability, so all things employability related, and hopefully you should really get some practical hints and tips about the graduate recruitment process, and we've got some fabulous speakers here with us today. We've got Brackpool from LV, so she is a Learning and Talent Recruitment Manager at LV, and she'll be giving you some advice about the recruitment process from her perspective and her experience in industry. And we've also got Rebecca Hindley, who's an academic here in the Faculty of Management. Her discipline is Human Resources Management, so she'll again be giving you some real life hints and tips based on her background as well, because she's been manager in some global companies as well, which will be really good insight for us to all hear about. So today's session is also part of the SUBU More Than My Degree campaign that you might have seen advertised across campus. So at the end of this session we've got the Student Union President coming in to just give you a bit of an idea of the upcoming events happening as part of that campaign as well. So they're all employability focused events that you can use as part of your GTP programme as well. So just a reminder that we record this session, so if you do want to review the session afterwards, we do upload it to the GTP portal under your resources area, and you can use that to write your reflection that we ask you to do for each of the course sessions that we run on the programme. We also take lots of photos as part of the session, so please do share those, but please do let us know if you don't want to be in any photos, and we can make sure that we don't put those anywhere live on social media, for example. We do have a register here today, so please make sure that you've signed that register, because we use that as part of your evidence to say that you've been here today. And please just make the most of this opportunity to interact with each other. You're all here from all faculties and different levels of study, so it's a really good opportunity to meet each other and work with each other. We will have a group activity later on as well, so you will be put into groups to work with each other, so please make most of this opportunity. Right, so this is what stage we're at the moment. So we're at stage 3 of the Global Talent Programme. So we're moving away from global mindset and global heart set to now talk about global skill set. So putting your skills into practice that you've learned throughout your journey on the Global Talent Programme. So just a reminder as well that if you're an undergraduate student, you need to complete 3 activities on the first 3 stages of the award. So some of you might be nearing the end of your award now, and I will come to this at the end of the session to say the deadline for completing your award this year, which is the 1st of May, but I will give you some advice on what support's available for doing that at the end of this session. If you're a postgraduate student, there are 4 stages that you need to complete, so we have a session next week for that badge as well, which I'll advertise at the end of this session. So this stage 3 of the programme, we're talking about career readiness and developing those professional skills that you'll need for the global marketplace. So what's really important to know is, like, the work situation nowadays is very different from what it might have been, say, 10 or 20 years ago. It's very ever-changing. There's lots of new technologies coming into place, for example, that we'll discuss in a minute. And being very adaptable is really key for that situation, which we'll talk about. Another important thing to say is self-reflection is very important as well. So please take this opportunity to self-reflect about the skills that you are developing during this session. We get you to write a reflection at the end of each course session for that reason, because sometimes it's hard not to get those opportunities to self-reflect. So this is the reason why we are doing it, to help you progress and develop those skills. Just a reminder, so from the week before last, we had a session based on global heart set with Kerry Randall and Nicholas Gemetta from Sainsbury's. So we spoke about emotional resilience and emotional intelligence in that session. So we were talking about understanding the emotions of others, and our own emotions as well, and we gave you the space to have a think about that, but also listen to somebody, Nicholas Gemetta, talk about his own emotions as well in the workplace and how that hasn't prohibited him in how successful he's been in his career. So we hope you found that useful. But this is the second session of the Skilled Practitioner Badge. We also had a session back in November. So just a show of hands, who came to that session, Introduction to Global Skill Sets? A couple of you. Okay, so most of you haven't been to that session, so if you did want to revise some of that content, we do have the recording of that on the portal. During that session, we were talking about the skills gaps that there are in the current graduate recruitment market, some skills that you might want to consider developing as well, the skills that employers are looking for nowadays. So this was a Mentimeter that we did on the day. I don't know if you can see some of the answers there. Let's just go back. So we asked you the question, what global trends will affect our work in the future? And some of the themes that we spoke about were artificial intelligence, automated, lots of jobs that were becoming automated, and digital skills as well. So we spent some of the session discussing that and how you might develop some of those skills that are now becoming kind of an expectation in the graduate recruitment market at the moment. And this is just an interesting stat that we spoke about. So young people today are projected to have 17 jobs in 5 different careers over the course of their lifetime. So again, kind of using transferable skills, which we'll talk about today, to learn from one job to the next, what you might take with you is what we discussed at that session. So the learning outcomes of today's session. To understand the concept of a global skill set, to consider the skill set required for your particular area of work, and plan how to develop your global skill set attributes. So really taking away a plan of how you're going to develop a career plan, perhaps, of what you want to do now that you're finding employment. Many of you might be looking for a placement or a graduate role at the moment, so we are going to be offering you lots of advice of what's available to you here at Bournemouth University to help you prepare yourself for that application process. So these are some of the skills that we're developing as part of this badge. Problem-solving analysis, digital identity, leadership and people skills, for example. But as I mentioned before, adaptability is a key one here for the environment that we're currently in. And these are some of the extracurricular activities that we have as part of this badge. So lots of them are work experience related, leadership roles that are across campus as well. So please do make the most of those opportunities available to you to develop these skills whilst you're here at university. Also, everything that we have as a careers service is based under this badge, so what we mention later on in this session can count towards your skill practitioner badge as an extracurricular activity. Okay, so the plan for today. I'm going to introduce Bev shortly. So Bev's going to be talking to you about the graduate recruitment process from her perspective, and then we're going to have the activity where you'll be working in groups and doing some pitching. Then we'll have Rebecca talking about the career service here at BU and what is on offer to you to help you prepare. Then we're going to have a fun little quiz at the end. What's your animal type? So this is a personality type Myers-Briggs survey to see what careers might be suitable for you, dependent on your personality. And then we'll be listening to Ade at the end of the session talking about the campaign. Okay. Right, on that note, I will introduce Bev. So I'm delighted to introduce Bev Brackpool here today. So Bev is the Talent and Learning Recruitment Consultant at LV. She has spent 15 years as a revenue manager in the hotel industry, and she decided to move into the world of recruitment, developing a hospitality branch at a large London agency. After relocating to the Bournemouth area 13 years ago, Bev took on the role as a partner at the local hospitality recruitment company, recruiting for all front of house positions in both the UK and the Middle East. and Bev then became Director of Osprey International, a recruitment company dedicated in finding talented recruiters on a global scale, and her clients being in the USA, Canada and Europe. So, she's got lots of global experience, so we're looking forward to hearing from you today. So please welcome Bev.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. Better than that. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. That's so much better. As Jenna very kindly introduced me, I am Bev, and I am managing at the moment all of the talent recruitment and learning and development within LV. So what I'm going to sort of talk to you about today and what I'd like to cover, a bit about me and my background, a bit about LV, the challenges for recruiting in a global organisation and considering new mindset. Now I know you've worked on mindset before, so this hopefully will link in quite nicely with that. Assessment hints and tips that may or may not help. What to consider when you are applying for these positions, my views of global organisations, and then we'll look at any questions, and then we're going to look at a challenge. So a bit about me. As Jenna said, I spent 15 years in the hotel industry. I was a revenue director for De Beer. Really enjoyed it, did a lot of travel, but just got fed up and thought I need to do something else. What can I do? And so I knocked on lots of doors of different agencies to think I could potentially do recruitment. I think that would be something of interest. And a member of SSA Group, which is an international construction recruitment group, took a chance on me and asked me to go in there and open up a hospitality division because hotels is what I knew. That was incredibly successful. Spent about 6 years in London doing that, and I then met my now husband, who lives in Bournemouth. So it was a toss-up between London and Bournemouth. Clearly Bournemouth won. So I then moved down to Platinum Recruitment, which is quite a local company that some of you may or may not have heard of. They look after a lot of recruiting for the BIC, the Pavilion, the high volume areas, as well as nationwide hotels, 4 or 5-star, Michelin star. So they look after almost everything within the hospitality sector. I was then asked to go and be a director of a company called Osprey, which was very interesting. It was recruiting recruiters. So my challenge here was definitely understanding my clients and their clients. So for example, one of the exec search companies I dealt with was a big IT company, and their clients were people like Microsoft and Oracle and Google and Facebook. So I had to understand their business as well as my client's business. So that was quite a challenge there. Then after about 5 years of that, I decided I would like to do something internally. So I moved to LV to look after their internal recruitment. And I'm sure you all know about LV. I will be honest, when I told my friends and family I was going to LV, they got really excited and said, oh, can you get us 20 events? What discounts can you get? And I thought, I'm quite impressed that my friends and family are interested in pensions. It turns out they thought I was going to Louis Vuitton. So I went from 0 to 0 very, very quickly. So when I told them it was income protection, they weren't quite so excited. So LV, very, very strong branded heritage company based head office in Bournemouth, but we've got offices elsewhere, established in 1843. 2 key business lines with over 6,000 employees across 17 different offices in the UK. We have the two main business lines, life and pensions and general insurance. So we're more famous obviously for general insurance. In 2017 we entered into a joint venture with Allianz, which as I'm sure you'll all know is part of Legal & General and a big insurance brand. And we are now 2 completely separate organisations working just under one brand. So we're life and pensions and we're general insurance, and I represent life and pensions. So challenges for recruiting on a global organisation. So larger organisations, sometimes candidates don't quite understand what they do. And I'm going to use PepsiCo as an example a couple of times because my colleague actually came from PepsiCo. But if I was to say to you, what does PepsiCo do? You'd say to me, they make cans of pop, or they make bottles of drink. They're actually huge. They make, for example, Quaker Oats is PepsiCo, Tropicana is PepsiCo, Lipton Iced Tea is PepsiCo. So all of these different brands are actually all under that same PepsiCo brand. It's understanding and knowing the brand and what they actually do. Candidates are sometimes blinded by brands. A friend of mine, and I'm going to use this as an example, she went for an interview with Just Eat. And she came to me, as many of my friends go for interviews do, and they said, what hints and tips can you give us? And I said, well, what research have you done? And she said, well, I've looked at nutrition and I've looked at what kind of restaurants they are with and all these different food items. And I said, well, why have you done that? And she said, because it's just eat. It's got eat in the title. It's a tech company. It's an app that talks to a bit of technology. It's nothing to do with food. So know your brand and know what you're going to be interviewed for. And the scale. It's really difficult sometimes to actually understand the scale of the organisation that you're working with. PepsiCo, 250,000 people worldwide. That's Wembley Stadium 3 times. So you've really got to understand the size of them. It can be hard to understand where your role fits within the brand. So if you're studying something and you think, well, how is that going to fit there? Understand that all of these big brands need so much more than probably what their name suggests. They usually have thousands of applications, so the key is to really make yours stand out. The challenges for recruiting, and I know this only too well, some are incredibly fast moving, others are really slow. So you have to understand that brand. Some will say, we'll get back to you in 3 weeks, others say, we'll email you tomorrow. So understand the pace of the brand. Continually looking for fresh and diverse talent. They're always raising the calibre, so you have to stand out and understand what they are wanting from you. They usually have very, very high hiring standards. I've put Amazon experience there because a friend of mine went for an interview at Amazon. 7 hours he was there. It was quite a senior role, but 7 hours he was there. He met 9 different people, and in all that time he spent, he was convinced that he'd done really well, and he still didn't get the job. So understand that there are very, very high standards in some of these roles. And they sometimes require a lot of interview stages. Sometimes their setup is so complex that you'll need to meet HR in Singapore and HR in Europe, because you're going to be interacting with both. So understand how many of these interview stages you're having. And also recruiting into different cultures. You have to understand that what is going to work in Dubai may not work in the States, and vice versa. So just understand the different cultures. Now, we're looking at the global organisation definitely requires a different mindset. And as I said, I know that this probably links in with some of the mindset work that you've done previously, and you're probably very familiar with some of the slogans that are written up here. So fixed mindset, it tends to be, I'll say 15, 20 years ago, this was very UK, what I'd say. So I'm either good at it or I'm not. When I'm frustrated, I'm just giving up. Feedback and criticism, that's personal. I'm going to stick to what I know. These are all quite fixed, closed mindsets. The global organisations are now looking far more into the growth mindset. Failure is an opportunity to grow. Finding a solution for something. How can I learn more about it? My effort and attitude determines my abilities. So it's thinking more on the growth mindset rather than the fixed mindset. And I'm glad to say over the UK over the last few years, we are definitely moving slightly more away from fixed, albeit we've still got a long way to go compared to global organisations where they are definitely moving, they've definitely got the growth mindset also. Assessment. So any hints and tips? So understand who the company is and do your research. I had a friend that went for an interview at Amazon Kindle and thought she was going to Amazon Prime. So understand that all these companies may have different arms that have nothing to do with what you're going for. All about research and understanding them. Show your passion for the organisation and brand, but be authentic about it. I had an interview the other day with a lovely girl who came to LV, quite a senior position, and she was telling me how excited she got about income protection and pensions and retirement advice service. And I just thought, I don't know anybody that's passionate about retirement service, so I'm not sure I believe that. What I do know is people that are really passionate about good businesses and growth, and those with a good name. So be passionate about it, but about the right thing. Ask questions if you don't understand. Asking questions is absolutely fine. It's far better to do so than go away and not quite know what you should be understanding. Honesty and integrity. We are a finance house, therefore we always do credit checks on people. We have to make sure that you can't work for LV if you've had any bankruptcy or if you've had any bad debts. If you're not honest about these and upfront immediately, your application will just go. if you're honest about them, there are ways and means that we can manage this, but just be honest about it. So if there is anything hiding, it's usually okay, but just be totally honest. Assessment testing. I think Jenna touched on Myers-Briggs, which is a classic profiling system, but there's so many out there, and they all do pretty much the same thing. They'll all ask you what's more like you and what's less like you, and you've got a list of words. So many people will sit and try and think how this is going to make me look, or they're looking for somebody who's going to be this and they're not looking for that. It won't work. Don't try and beat the system. You have to make sure you're honest, because you can tell when somebody's cheated because nothing matches, and it is really obvious. And so many people go, well, that's not me, and then 2 months down the line I'll go, that is you, isn't it? So you have to make sure you don't try and cheat those systems, and listen to questions carefully. This is particularly in an interview process. I have a lot of candidates that I'm asking a question to, and I can see they're thinking of an answer before I've finished. So they're actually answering me, they're waiting for me to stop talking before they answer. Really listen to the question. If you don't understand it, ask them to repeat it. It's fine to do so, but answer the question that they are asking you, not what you think that they're asking you. And bring your whole self to work. They want to see the real you. And what I mean by that, the amount of times I've interviewed somebody and then when they start they are a totally different person. Sometimes good, sometimes bad. But just be as real as you can. I don't mean walk into an interview with a pint in your hand and screaming and shouting, but just be completely yourself. And video interviewing. So we've recently introduced video interviewing. I was saying to Jenna earlier actually that we've had a 100% success rate. So rather than just ask for applications to come through, we do a telephone interview. If we like them, we ask them to come in. We've asked people to fill out a video interview. And for all of those that did, which was a lot less than we would have had normal applications, 100% were asked in and 100% actually got the position. So it really is quite effective. So I just want to quickly run through this video for you to have a look at about our video interview.
Quality video will help you make a great first impression. It's easy to improve your video quality by following our simple top tips. Firstly, make sure you're in a brightly lit room, as dim light makes it hard for us to see you. If it's the daytime, we recommend that you face a nearby window. Make sure you're in a quiet room as background noise is distracting. Check what's in the shop behind you, get rid of the posters, clutter, or even the unmade bed. A plain wall is the best option. Make sure you're speaking loudly and clearly. You'll see a sound meter when you're recording, so check that it's peaking in the orange section. Try to have your webcam eye level. If that's not possible, it's better for the camera to be angled down rather than up. You don't want your next boss to be staring up your nose. And don't forget to think about what you're wearing too. Finally, look directly at the camera when you're recording. Resist the temptation to look at yourself on the screen. This doesn't look great on the video as you won't be making eye contact with the interviewer. So, take your time, be yourself, and good luck.
So that was just a video that we send out with the video interviews, just to give people a little bit of confidence, I guess, to look down a camera, because it's not always the easiest thing. So other things to consider when you're applying. Ask your right to work status. Some organisations will sponsor, some won't, but just ask. The States, for example, I found it a lot easier to get my candidates there than I did in the Middle East, or Canada was a little bit more tricky, but you just need to ask those questions. Think about the role and adjust your CV and cover letter. Now, when I say adjust, I don't mean lie or write what you think they want to hear. Adjust it. You'll see a role profile or a job description, and all you need to do is look at your skills on your CV, look at what you've studied, look at whatever you've learned, and pull out any of those areas that are going to be highlighted on the same job application. This gives you the opportunity to really showcase the skills that you do have. So always make sure you adjust your CV. I'll never say change it, just slightly adjust it. Make sure your CV is punchy. 2 pages, 3 pages, absolute max. You don't need it any bigger than that. I had one the other day which was 19 pages long. That person was 24 years old. How can you have done 19 pages when you're 24? I'm 48 and I've only got about 4. So it was, I called straight away and said, send me back 2 pages and then we'll talk. Not everybody will do that, so make sure it's quite short. What's your career story? What are your aspirations? You get asked so many times, what do you want to do in 5 years' time? Oh, I don't know. What do you want to do in 10 years' time? I don't know. Think about where you want to be. Think about the progression route that you're going to use to get there, and talk through your journey. It's so much more interesting when you're interviewing somebody who has a journey planned, and they have their thought process, and they know what they want to do. So many times I was asked once in an interview, what would you do if you won the lottery? And I said, oh, I would, and I reeled off, I would invest in this, I'd buy a yacht, I'd get my parents this and this. And I said, why did you ask me that question? What was the purpose of that question? And the guy said to me, it wasn't to see what you were going to do with the money, it was to see that you'd thought about owning that much money in your lifetime, and that you have these plans and aspirations about what you would do if you'd earn that money, which I thought was quite clever, and he was quite impressed with the yacht. So, how does your course relate to what you're doing? So the course that we're doing at the moment, have a look at the roles that you're going to be thinking of applying for. What transferable skills have you learned? What have you got that can transfer across? So many global companies now will have, if we take Facebook or Google for example, you're studying medicine, how can that possibly go to Google? Well, they have on-site doctors. So think about all of the different areas of these global companies that you can transfer your skills to. Consider your social media profile. We've all got them. They're out there. Your footprint is everywhere. And I'm not bothered about photographs of you having beers with your friends. That is completely normal. Just be really careful of what you write. And that's comments on other people's, that's comments on yours. We've all seen reality TV stars that have been kicked out of TV programmes because of what they wrote 4 years ago. So be really mindful of the footprint that you've left elsewhere, and make sure your pictures aren't too bad. Make connections and reach out. So, LinkedIn, great thing. How many, show of hands, how many people are on LinkedIn? Impressive. The rest of you, why aren't you? Because that is where you start. My 20-year-old nephew, who's studying chemical engineering, he's in his second year, he's already got 300 followers, 300 connections, of which 5 or 6 of them have offered him an internship as and when that happens, because he reached out, because he started talking in forums, because he got involved with conversations. He followed people that went to his university 20 years ago studying the same thing. So it's all about getting yourself out there. So follow key people and organisations, have a look at where you want to look to learn, have a look at where you want to apply to, look at the top people within those organisations, start following them, find out what they did, find out how their journey was. Research who you're meeting in your interview. Always, always research as much as you possibly can. Go through every single LinkedIn profile of anybody you're meeting and their deputies and their deputies' deputies. So you have all these names in your bank when you're going to meet them. And you say, oh, I understand, hasn't Mark been with you for 20 years? Yeah, I understand that. Didn't he go to Loughborough University? All these kind of things will make you stand out. Ask insightful questions. Now, one of the hardest questions somebody asked me when I was interviewing them was, what concerns do you have about me, Bev? And I was absolutely flummoxed, and it kind of took me aback a bit, but then afterwards, I'm glad he did, because I said, actually, I do have a couple of concerns, and I ran through them. He answered them brilliantly, and therefore he was offered the job. Had he have gone away not asking that, I'm not sure, because I was on the fence. But he gave me the opportunity to let him know why I was concerned, and it gave him the opportunity to tell me why I shouldn't be concerned, and it absolutely works. So don't be frightened of asking those kind of questions, and listen to feedback when you get it. It's not always great, can be a little bit critical, but always try and take it as positively as you can. People are telling you this for a reason, and whether you want to believe it, take it on board, because I promise you, you will learn from it. And networking is everywhere, so always, always do networking. Global organisation, so they can have a lot of a lot of opportunities, but you've got to be realistic. You're not going to walk into a CEO position having been there a year. As a graduate, you are absolutely on the right journey. You've got the right qualifications. Be realistic with the opportunities that are there, but there are so many. It does require you to work very flexibly. When I was with Osprey, I was probably up at 4 in the morning recruiting for the Middle East, and still up at midnight recruiting for the States. So you do have to be aware of the time zones, particularly if you're going to be in one office one week and another office another. You have to take into account all of these. Problem solving skills. For some reason, globally, this is more of an issue of problem solving. You have so many more problems because it's on a global scale. So your skills, you really have to make sure that they're top. Many cultures, so you need to understand the cultures that you're working with as well. You need to know that what works in Dubai is not going to work in the States. You need to know that all of these cultures and all of these different people, you have to fit in with them. And it can be complex, a matrix environment. It can be so much paperwork for very, very little, what you think isn't actually necessary. You will be expected to network and develop your own career. You've got to be brave and make those connections. Just reach out to people. You'll be surprised how many helpful people there are out there that are really wanting to develop your talent and really wanting to help you. So if you see CEO of a company, don't think, can't touch him, he's a CEO. Reach out, because chances are they will respond. And they're usually huge. Absolutely huge. On a scale sometimes where you just think, I am never going to get my head around all this. There's too many people. I'm never going to get to know everything. It's surprising how quickly you do. It definitely opens your eyes to a different way of thinking. It allows you to problem solve quicker. You have more interaction with different types of people. There's definitely more growth within the global organisation. And it's amazing to be a part of. Any questions? Yes, sir.
I have one about which slides back and talking about global mindset versus fixed mindset, whatever. Essentially,
Yeah.
I can't be exact wording, but essentially said the global mindset, there is an opportunity to accelerate and show and kind of cut paths back. How exactly do you show that to a company though? It's like, I feel like more on a resume, right? But yeah, I have some courses and I do that.
Example giving is always really good. So an example of a growth mindset is, I had a problem, I found a solution for it, this is how I rectified it, and this is what I learned. Somebody with a fixed mindset is going to say, well, I have this problem, I just don't know what to do. So it's giving really good examples. We have, at LV, we have competency interview packs, and a lot of those are example giving. So growth mindset is showing and your ability to create solutions rather than problems is what they're looking for. They're looking for somebody with a really fresh mindset. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
For example, if you start a company for 1 year and I leave the company, I start a company and leave the company and coming for you for an interview, do you consider it, or can I tell to you that I started a company but I left it? Will it be an advantage or disadvantage?
If you say you started with a company or you started a company yourself,
One company.
your own company.
Yes.
I would always take on somebody that's had the guts to start their own company. It takes a lot of hard work. It takes a lot of dedication. Even if it's failed, as my dad used to say, it's better to try and fail than never try at all. So anybody that's tried their own company, I really want to see figures. I want to see how long you gave it and perhaps why didn't it fail, but it certainly wouldn't put me off, you know. Not at all.
Because I started a company,
Yeah.
and when I wanted to put that in my LinkedIn, others advised me not to put it because some recruiters will think that you might leave that company because you already have had a company like that. So, from your perception, that is a good thing.
I think anybody that starts their own company shows they've got determination and grit. I think possibly the problem that some may see is, are you just going to use us for a couple of years and then ditch us and go back? So that's for you to convince them that that's not going to happen. I certainly wouldn't let it put me off interviewing anyone. What do you think about that?
It's the same thing. I think I'd agree completely. There's a notion of, you probably get asked about it at an interview, but actually I think there is something to be said for having something on your CV that someone else wants to ask you a question about, rather than it just be the same as everybody else's. So already you've interested someone, and then they're going to ask you about it, and it's for you to then have that discussion of, if you've still got a company open, is this just, are you just doing this because it's some money that helps keep you living, whereas actually your passion is over here? And that would be an issue, potentially. If that's how you explained it in an interview, that could be a problem. But the notion of, it might be something that's an aspiration, whatever, in the future, and you can explain quite clearly, this is what I think I need to do, this is why this is such a great opportunity. And some people may decide to invest in you for 2 years, or 3 years. We know now that young people, what we say, 17 jobs in their career by the time they're 40 or something crazy. So it's not the thing of hiring someone now because you're going to stay with them for 5 years, for 10 years. But there are some roles where you do need someone to commit for a while, because training and getting you to a level where you're really productive, that's going to take a year. You know, we always say it takes about 6 months for you to work out what your job is, and it takes you another 6 months for you to get any good at it. And then after that, 12 months onwards, you're starting to give back something that an organisation has invested in you. So
that is a really good point. And organisations, they want to invest.
yeah.
I mean, that old saying that Richard Branson said, which is, what if we train them and they leave? And he said, well, what if we don't and they stay? So it's really understanding the mindset of young, intelligent, smart people that want to do well. And I personally, and I've seen, I don't know how many different profiles and CVs in my time, would rather see somebody that started a startup than a blank, I haven't done anything, without question. So I think showcase your ability, showcase what you've done, and it would be a talking point in an interview as well. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes, sir.
Yeah, sometimes one is advised to start small.
Yeah.
If you're moving from a small company to, let me say, global company, and you're a manager in a small company, you may not have so much experience to work at the managerial level in that global company. Would it be advisable to apply for a lower position when you know, in terms of qualifications, maybe you have a master's, you have a PhD, you should fit into the managerial position, but because this other company is a global company, you want to start small, and you want to go low. In that regard, your CV, should it contain those qualifications? Or it would be nice to say, okay, for this new position, let me be at the level that this global company is requesting, and just remain at that level. That's editing your CV to show what they really want and not what you really have.
That is a really good question that I get asked quite a lot, which is it better to stick at my managerial status in a smaller company, or bite the bullet, go to a bigger company and take a bit of a drop down in the title? My advice would always be, you need to think about the progression route, the future, what opportunities are going to be available to you. So what if you're not full manager for 2 years? What happens in 4 or 5 years when you're actually at director level, or when you're managing X amount of people because you took that leap of faith? It depends on your own career objectives. If you're looking to be a senior person within a smallish company and you're happy with that, it's enough for you to continually progress in your mindset, fine. If you're looking to progress in a big global organisation, I would kind of get rid of any titles and think about the role itself, where it could lead you to. Nobody will penalise you in an interview 3 years down the line for taking a drop back because you joined a global organisation and you took a step back. Nobody.
In that regard, how do you perceive it? You see my profile on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
I'm this, I'm that, I've managed this, I've managed that. And then as at the time I was applying to you, I had to reduce myself to that position in your company. How would you perceive me? Would you see me as telling a lie?
No, I think anybody who understands the size of these businesses will understand the reason that you took that job. And you're going to be talking to professionals, you're going to be talking to HR people that know this business inside out. I've been in the industry, as you can see, for a long, long time. If I saw somebody that had been in smallish companies, then moved to a big global organisation in a role that was slightly less than perhaps their ability showed, I wouldn't question it in an instant, because I could see why you've done it. Again, it's another talking point like this chap in your interview.
And it's one, I think, for you to make very clear in your cover letter.
Yeah.
Because actually, if you can demonstrate in your cover letter that you've gone through that thought process, and that you have realised, because you mentioned about, do I hide my PhD, do I hide my master's, because there's a danger that someone might feel I'm overqualified. No, never hide anything, because we'll find it out anyway. And it comes back to the, honestly, in employment screening, anything you've done, we will find it out. So there's no point hiding anything. What you want to do is keep that honesty bit, but if you can then show that I've realised by putting myself in your shoes that you might see this is slightly odd, this is the thought process I've gone through to come to this decision, and you can sell a nice story in your cover letter about the process you've gone through, why you're deciding this, what you think is in it for you, what's in it for the organisation, then it's like, yeah, brilliant. That's much more powerful, isn't it? Does that sound a lot more powerful than pretending that you're not who you are?
I agree. I would rather take on somebody that is prepared to take that for the long term, because they're looking at my company now for long term. They're not just going to be there for a couple of years, because they've got a progression route that they want to follow, and they believe that opportunity will be available in my company. Of course I'm going to be interested in speaking with you. I want somebody that has that mindset. I don't want somebody to sit in front of me and go, I'm not going there because I'm a manager at the moment and you're only offering me a senior role. So I would absolutely look at that if that's the way that you're going to go.
When you look at the most senior people in organisations, it's surprising perhaps that their career trajectory is very rarely like that. They don't just go up in stages like that. The most senior people in organisations have often taken sideways steps, very frequently parallel steps, because you don't want to be in a large organisation at the top, you don't want to be the expert in this little thing. You need to have a really good appreciation of this aspect of the business, that aspect of the business, this bit over here. So because you've studied a particular subject, don't think you have to stay there and that's your expertise. What Bev was saying about your transferable skills, they're going to apply. And so actually if you've got an understanding and appreciation of sales and marketing, you've got an understanding of finance, you've got an understanding of what it's like in an operations role, what it's like in a support services type, maybe HR administration or something, those sorts of areas, that can really help you progress even further than maybe you might have done if you'd just gone straight up.
I'm a perfect example.
Yeah,
I was a
me too,
director of
actually.
revenue for De Beer Hotels, and I knocked it all on the head because I didn't want to continue that growth. I wanted to go into recruitment. So I took a real dive bump down. Admittedly, I worked really, really hard to get back up again, and within a few years, I'm a director of an international company. So it's understanding where your progression could lead, and just filtering that through when you're in the interview process as well. Anything else? That lady there.
What would you say to somebody that like makes you upset maybe you've got like gaps in your CV where so basically I travelled for 7 years after I did my undergraduate, and like so for some of that time I was working but it was like hospitality kind of based jobs, and then a lot of it like I wasn't working at all. What's like a good way to kind of like package that?
I have a lot of CVs that have got travel on them, and to be honest, I really encourage anybody that's got travel on their CVs. Again, it shows something about you. Forget the qualifications and everything else. It tells me you're independent, you're not frightened to go out and do it alone, you're happy to go and slum somewhere if you have to. So I always encourage you to be completely honest on your CV. If you've got a gap of 3 years, what were you doing? I was travelling. And during my time travelling, took on various different positions, including bar work, hospitality work, whatever it may be. But always make sure you have your years filled in, as it were. Don't just leave gaps, because that brings up questions. And I had a gap in a CV once and we couldn't work out where he'd been, and he said, I was away. And this was for about 18 months. I mean, where were you away? Were you travelling? We did our due diligence, and he was in prison. So you have to be very, very careful. I'm not saying that any people, but always fill in those gaps and just be honest about what's in them. Travelling, even if it's for 3 years, 4 years, whatever, it won't necessarily be detrimental to your CV at all. It's kind of expected, really. So yeah, all to the way. Yes, sir.
So kind of related thing to the transparent on your applications and whatnot. Personally for me, my undergrad, I fell out of my first year in undergrad and then kind of struggled through to get the undergrad degree, but now I'm working on a second master's with both with the first that I can like some time off, got the stuff together, work a little bit. How exactly when you have just like an application that just wants your grades, do you put, oh yeah, I failed out of my first uni right there, but now I have first, how did exactly?
Exactly. Now you've got a first.
Yeah, I just my second master's, I got first master's also.
You focus on the positives. Focus on what you have got, not what you didn't get. You can talk about ashamed of is not enjoying a course and forgetting and not doing it. So many people do that. That would never put me off, because look at what growing you achieve. So that's nothing to be ashamed of at all. Anybody else? Marvellous. Thank you very much. We are now going to look at the PepsiCo Go Trendsetter Challenge. Now, I don't know if any of you have seen this or have heard of this before. I'll explain what it is in a moment and why they did it. But I'm just going to show a very short video, and this kind of shows the results, and then I'll go into how it happened. But has anybody here heard of it? It's not the Pepsi Challenge, which is drinking 2 different drinks. It's the PepsiCo Go Trendsetter Challenge. So I'll just play you this really short video, which my colleague is in. He's everywhere.
Candidates the opportunity to express themselves, and you can really see how a person works and if they are really interested in your company.
It's been a fantastic couple of days. It's been a really informative, energetic 2 days for the candidates, and I think it's a really new way of interacting and finding the talent of the future.
Created a program which again leverages digital, but also allows them to really understand our industry, our business, our challenges, gives them the opportunity to really demonstrate their entrepreneurship, their creativity, their commercial acumen, and gives us lots of opportunities to really understand them far, far better than we would have done in the past.
I'm amazed. Like, I can't believe I won first prize. It's amazing. It's such a great opportunity, and I've met so many amazing people. It's been a really good experience.
So that doesn't really tell you what the challenge was, but it gives you an idea as to how the open day went with PepsiCo. They launched it because they were finding they were getting hundreds and hundreds of CVs of people doing various different courses, but nothing really was standing out for any of these candidates. They were all amazing at so many things, but how do you actually transfer that into a person that's in front of you? So they launched it so they basically sent out a blanket to anybody saying, don't need a CV, don't need to know what degree you're doing, don't even have to have a degree if you don't need one, but just enter this and let's see who wins. So they just asked people to do one challenge, and anybody that came up with a really good idea were invited into PepsiCo into one of these days. And it was a roaring success. So instead of having graduates that had degrees, and that they had people that just had really good ideas and that had the right mindset and that thought globally, just as we've just been talking about. So the challenge I'm going to ask you to say, so this was the actual challenge. Imagine a large, fast-moving consumer goods company that's giving you £100,000 to tap into the next big food and beverage trend. So the trends could be new product or flavour. It could be something that's more broader, like eco-friendly sourcing or sustainable packaging. And what would you focus on? How would you harness that trend? And how would you take your idea to market? So that is what they were given. So in your teams, which you're not in yet, but if I can ask you to get into teams of about 5 or 6, so if you kind of scoot along to the people that are on the same row as you maybe, and we're just going to give you some flip-flop paper and some pens. And this is your challenge. So imagine you've been given £100,000 to tap into the next big market. How would you focus on it? What would you do with regards to taking it to market? How would you harness that trend? I will give you a little insect because they were full of protein. So these are some of the ideas that people have had. So I'd just like you to all have 20 minutes, and I will be asking for a couple of you maybe to come out and do your pitch so we can all hear it. So you've got 20 minutes, so at 4:15, I will be getting back to you and asking maybe one or two groups to, and I'm going to randomly select, so make them good. Take a chair. Right.
Okay.
Thank you. So, we've probably got time for 5-minute presentations, so a couple of those. Any volunteers? Good man. Come on down. Bring your team and your control with you. Let's think about your... Right.
So basically, our idea was for biodegradable crisp bags. In the UK, a year and a half ago, in 2018, there was a petition that went around for workers' crisps that they were producing way too much plastic waste. 300,000 people in the UK signed that petition. So there needs to be a way to get rid of this plastic waste that exists. Currently, PepsiCo is working on making most of their packaging recyclable by, I think it's 2020, 2021, something around there. But recyclable isn't necessarily, it's a good step, but it isn't necessarily as much as we can do, because first, people don't always recycle. People will still just throw it in the trash. But also, if litter aspects, if it's on the floor, even if it's recyclable, it's still not going to go away. It still needs to be picked up, put in the right bins. So we were leaning more towards a biodegradable solution. So for example, looking at the brands that PepsiCo has, they have the Tostitos brand. Tostitos comes from corn, so the corn has husks to begin with. So using some kind of circular economy type of situation, we can try to repurpose those husks or those other kinds of waste that can become the bag instead through like a biodegradable livestock bioplastic instead. And that would work as crisp bags to try to reduce both the non-recyclable and the recyclable materials, turning it into biodegradable that can be taken away. And starting market strategy, since PepsiCo has so many products to begin with, we were going to start with water because first there is the issue that people are faced at, but also we were thinking about starting with the smaller travel bags instead of the bigger bags, because first you use more material for less chips in those instances, but big bags are typically eaten at home, out of view of people, but the small bags, people would actually see the bags, they'd see them walking around, they'd see what's going on with the bags, and see that they're changing them. And that would kind of give it more presence of this is a good idea, this is actually working, and this is what we can do. So that's basically
good shout. So how would you, we've talked about the what, now talk to me about the how. So how would you, for example, bring that to market? You've mentioned about the biodegradable bags, which is fabulous. So I don't know if you've looked into how they would work, but also how would you bring that to market?
Well,
what would be your agenda when you bring that to market?
The assumption that for bringing it to market, the assumption we were working off of, we're actually working off the assumption that we're part of like the PepsiCo type of
so you
partner type of thing.
You would have that platform already.
Yeah, so we were assuming the PepsiCo platform because there already is the access to the crisp brands,
yeah.
And that would help us first have a starting brand to go with and kind of like test with, and then once they see that within PepsiCo, other companies can see how it's going, that reduces their risk to also enter in, so it can spread from the PepsiCo onto other brands as it's seen fit. Outside of as an external, we haven't discussed the market.
I'll put that to PepsiCo for you and see what they say. Thank you very much. Anything else to add, guys? I think so. No? Very good. Yeah. Thank you very much. Thank you.
come to the idea of veg to veg or fruit crisp, right? Or chips, anyone can say. So in the world where we have like people suffering from obesity and all, and there are people who are looking for fitness thing and they're joining gym, dance classes and all. So we have this product which could be an alternative for any fish that are available in the market, because fruits and vegetables, these are baked. And this could help us in a way which could be like having a Dorito or Nacho or any good potato crisp for that matter. This would be much more beneficial in that way. So we have like divided our 100,000 budget into like many stages. Like we have 20% for like buying the assets or like dryer and something so that we can bake it, you know. And then we have like packaging things. As we are like we want our people to be much more healthier, and we also want these healthy people who look for the fitness. They will also look for like goodness of the environment. So we want our product to be packaged in like biodegradable or recyclable package, you know. So it would be like a complete package. So for the packaging and like production of this thing, we are like giving out 25% of the budget. And apart from for the logistic purpose, we are doing this. Apart from that, we also have marketing strategy for this thing. For marketing, like just now, like continue after this. Is somebody like?
Yes.
Sure.
So coming to the marketing part, we after the production of our baked fruit crisp, then it would go into this companies for the marketing like Deliveroo, Uber Eats, or any delivering company.
I think you could also, sorry to interrupt, you could also target things like gyms.
Yeah,
They
we
all
have this. We have this in mind. Gym, dance classes, and yoga fitness center.
We're on the same thought process.
Yeah.
Good.
Like-minded.
Yes.
So yeah, so what they would do is we can talk to the restaurants, like whoever are being registered in this delivering companies. For example, Deliveroo, whoever nearby restaurants are there. So in their food menu, we can add our chips in the sides, okay? Which is low cost investment. We do not go invest shop, buy anything and sell. So we can just add in their restaurant menu, and then when people want to order their food, they can also see in the sides this product, and they can just click on it and they can get their food. So in this time, what happens is, first thing, time is saved, and more, and we can have, okay, when it comes to the benefit of the restaurants, what would they gain? Percentage of commission would go to them. So this is how we are marketing our product.
Also, we can organize many events. It might look silly, but I just got it all in my mind. It's like we have nightlife where we have nightlife full of alcohol. Those who don't drink, they don't have any work. What we'll do? So we can arrange a non-alcoholic night out, so that where we can promote our product, and this could be an event for our brand. These can be like any environment day or something. It could be a better way to promote our thing, and we want to it would be a very new product, and we would like the way Pepsi does. We would like to focus more on the marketing side, so we allocate 50% of the budget to the marketing. And apart from that, we put 20% of the reserve so that we can any kind of emergency we can use it for that purpose. Anybody with anything?
Yeah, good.
So we all
I have a question.
Any questions?
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being brave. Can we just give a big round of applause to Beck? Okay, thank you. Hopefully you all found that useful. Nice to see a real experience of what you might witness in an interview as well. So hopefully found that useful. So now we're going to introduce Rebecca Hindley. So as I said before, she's lecturer in the Faculty of Management, but lots of experience in human resources. So welcome to Rebecca.
Okay, I'm conscious of time, and so this is going to be a bit of a whistle-stop tour. But some of you may well know some of this already, but it's about introducing you to some of the things that we have. But in terms of Jenna's introduction for me, that was lovely. And then I joined Hindley University about 6 years ago. Before that, I worked in recruitment, I worked in resourcing, and I'm lucky enough to have worked with some large global organisations. My last role was Global Head of Recruitment at Barclays. So my team recruited 40,000 people a year across 58 countries. So when we're talking about scale, yeah, it's massive. It nearly killed me. This is why I'm now a lecturer at Hindley University. I no longer work across 50, but in terms of experience, it was absolutely wonderful. Yeah, and working for global organisations can be great. So a lot of what Bev was saying there really resonated with me, but when you're talking about scale, I mean, that's really hard to get your head around. 40,000 people a year we hire every year. And that is only growing as the company grows. But I have spent a lot of time in finance, I'm sorry, so I've worked with Barclays, I've worked with JP Morgan, the investment bank, and 5 years with them. I've worked with Santander. I have set up functions in India, in Singapore, in Hong Kong, in the States in a couple of locations, in South Africa. And then I had teams in all of those places, along with most European major cities. But today what I want to do is try and pick up from where you've been in terms of this skills practitioner badge. So, thinking about career decision making. So you've got some lovely tips from Bev in terms of the interview and some of the things you can do around your application process, which is great. Almost what I want to do now is take you one step earlier than that. Right? Where are you going to apply? And we talked about self-awareness, and self-awareness is tough. Some people are very good at that. Some people really struggle with it, and it is perhaps a skill that we need to try and work on to develop. So when we're talking about career decision making, you start with, where am I now? Okay? And you do a little bit of an audit around where are you now? And this, I think, depending on which bits of the Global Talent Programme you've done, you will have done some of this already, but there's something about really recognising what are your values. Also recognising not only what are your values, but how strong are those values within you. Because sometimes we like to associate with certain things, but actually it doesn't have to define us, and we can be a little bit more fluid about that, and we can think, I'm okay about that. But if you are really passionate about veganism, for example, yeah? If you are really passionate about veganism, how comfortable are you going to be working for an organisation that within their supply chain doesn't state that they won't buy products from someone who tests on animals? How comfortable would you be working for an organisation that's producing leather handbags? You need to just think about what are your values, what do you truly believe in, because that can cause you issues later in terms of when you're choosing about who you work for. You will have a lot more fun working for an organisation if you are passionate about what that organisation does. Not only will you have a lot more fun, you will be more successful. It's quite nice to feel proud of your organisation that you work for. We have a thing now around Twitter, we have a Being Proud hashtag. And there's quite a lot that goes on where you think, do you know what, actually I am proud to be part of this thing that is developing people. So start off with where are you? So we talk about knowing yourself, yeah? Think about your interests. We've said already in terms of the competition that you need to try and make your CV stand out, yeah? If you are interested in something, you are going to be interesting to an organisation. They don't really mind what you're interested in. Right? And it definitely doesn't have to be linked to what that company particularly does. So this notion of I am passionate about retirement planning. Are you really? Be interested in something and then you can have a conversation. So people like to see that you are interested in things. So you need to think about those, and it's not reading and cooking. Yeah? It's, it's cooking. What are you interested in cooking? Who are your favourite recipes? Who are your favourite chefs? Who are, what? You need to go a little bit further to make it come alive. Yeah? Think about your personality type. Have you done your Myers-Briggs type indicator already? Hand, have you done Myers-Briggs? Some of you have. Yeah, not everybody. Okay. There's some opportunity for that as well through the programme. But we'll have a look. But I want to rattle through some of this so we can get to a fun little exercise, which is kind of a Myers-Briggs light. But it's quite nice, actually. I really like it. Thinking about all of this stuff. Preferred environments is interesting. Not only are you looking at the organisation, the sector, the type of role, do you like working in an open plan office? Do you like working in an office where you pretty much have to be suited and booted every day? Right? Are you going to be comfortable working in an organisation where someone comes up to you and says, "Dude, check shirt. What were you thinking about a check?" I've heard this. I've heard the CEO of a company go up to someone within the restaurant and say, "Checked shirt. You're not seeing any clients today, are you? We don't do checked shirts." What? So you need to think about that. What is going to fit? And there is something about when you go for interview as well. You don't necessarily have to stalk the company, but I have known people who stood outside before, a couple of days before their interview, and just seen what people are wearing as they go in and out, and then thought, you know what? I'll kind of mirror that when I go. Smart casual, I don't know about you, but for women, smart casual is kind of really, what does that mean? It's really hard, what does that mean? Get a sense of what it means for the organisation. Yeah? You can do that. You can look at their website. Maybe they use stock photos, maybe they use photos of themselves, but quite often what they represent on their website is what they want to represent to an organisation. So you can look at that. Thinking about your development needs is really important, and actually that comes to the question that you asked about, maybe you're taking a step down to go into a global organisation because you recognise there's a particular thing here, and learning learning the politics of negotiating within a large organisation, and by politics I mean politics with a little p, yeah? That's a significant task, actually. It can be really quite different to things that you've been involved in before. So recognising what your development needs are is great, because then you can really look at this job that you're applying for and think, well, is this developing me in my career? Is this developing me, or am I just is it all me doing exactly what the organisation needs? Because again, you're going to be a lot more fulfilled in your job if you think that you are developing and learning and growing, and you're getting somewhere in terms of your career path. So think about that. I've been asked to introduce some of the stuff that we do here at Careers for You. So, I'm hoping you recognise this slide. Yeah? My Career Hub. Yeah? Okay, good. My Career Hub, it's got shed loads of stuff on it. Okay? It's not necessarily the easiest to navigate because there's so much on there. Right? And partly I'm not going to apologise for it having too much stuff, because a lot of the stuff is great. But you do need to invest a little bit of time in terms of getting in there and finding the right stuff. But do go in there. But in this career, I don't know if you can see that, but this section here at the top, I don't know if I've got this little career assessment tools, there's some lovely stuff in there. There's a session, like a quiz, it's got quite a few different questions, but it takes you through to a really full report. Initially it looks like, oh, it's a bit much, there's about 50 questions. But it gives you a really detailed report on your strengths, your areas of expertise, your preferences, does identify things that are either developmental, yeah, so things that perhaps you've not developed that strength yet, but you're interested in that, yeah, or things that you're saying, do you know what, I just don't feel confident in that area yet, and you need a little bit more. That's a really lovely one that you'll find in there about your strengths and weaknesses, so do have a look at that. There is a very quick see if I can do this. See if this will work. Have we got some volume? Oh, press play, sorry.
Job career ready? Do you know where you're heading? And are you ready for the next step? Welcome to My Career Hub, packed with interactive tools, e-learning content, and the latest job opportunities, all designed to help you navigate today's job market and move your career forward with confidence. Use My Career Hub to find the support you need for your situation, whatever it is. You might want to understand your motivations, aspirations, and workplace preferences. Or perhaps you need help creating your CV or practicing for interview. If you're looking for inspiration, then use the databases and job search engine to find your perfect opportunity. Or take one of the hundreds of e-learning courses focused on developing your career and workplace skills, with advice direct from expert career coaches and hiring managers. Whether you're searching for work experience, your first graduate role, or considering your options, don't leave your next step to chance. Explore the resources and take control of your career today. Good luck.
Okay, so I mentioned that I was at Barclays, and when I was with Barclays, I spent quite a bit of time buying this stuff, actually. So I used to buy from external providers. We didn't necessarily make all of this ourselves, but we bought e-learning materials. We bought quite a lot of developmental packages and training programs. Some of the content on there, actually most of the content, but most of the Ab Integro content that's on My Career Hub is really very good quality. So do dive in there and try and use some of that if you can. There are bits there about career assessments. So it starts, this is the one that I was talking about, where you can get quite detailed reports on your preferences. And it gives you a record as well, so that if you do want to have something else that you can attach in terms of things that you've done, you can get a continuous professional development type of certification off here to say I've completed all of these e-learning modules. So you get your own report through there too. Again, it's about thinking about who you are and thinking about what goals you have. Because then, once you know who you are, where you want to go, you can start a targeted research, yeah? So thinking about this notion of, do you need to have further study? Do you need to do specific training? Or actually, what are you going into employment? And if you are, what sort of sectors? And you start to think about, does everyone have work experience? Is everyone in the room? Yeah? Who has work experience? Yeah? Okay. If you haven't got work experience, doesn't necessarily have to be paid work experience, but if you haven't got work experience, think about how you can. Think about some of the things that Jenna mentioned about volunteering. Yeah, so you can do volunteering. You can do stuff at the university like student ambassador and those opportunities, working on open days. Make sure you have some work experience, because that is probably the most significant thing that employers will just wobble at slightly, because you're completely untried and tested then. Yeah? It's a bit scary for employers. They'll get nervous. This is, even if I run a seminar for my first year business studies students, and we did one about how do you make your CV stand out. And it was lovely, because we were there about just having a degree now. I'm really sorry, it's not enough anymore. It's like, what else can you do? How else? And obviously preaching to the converted, because you're doing a global talent program. Good. Yeah? Hurrah! You've got an extra tick. Yeah, straight away. You're putting yourself ahead of all the other people who haven't. But we had a situation where a girl was in the class, and her sister had just recently qualified 6 months. In the last 6 months, she graduated from Cambridge. She had a first-class degree in something proper, like it was some engineering, but I think it was chemical or something. But she'd gone off for an interview with an investment bank. So initially, you're kind of thinking, okay, she's got a pretty hefty academic style subject here. She's got a first-class degree from Cambridge University, She got an interview with the investment bank, absolutely. She did really well with all the tests. She did really well with all the values. And then they said, look, we can't hire you because you haven't done anything yet. We need you to go and do some stuff. So we are really interested in you, but we need you to go away for a year and do some stuff. Just live for a bit and show us that you can do that. Show us that you can live outside of this really tight, quite controlled. They talked to her about her life in Cambridge, and it was very. She hadn't joined the society. She's not been part of the society. She had studied. This life skills bit is really significant. So volunteering, vacation work. Have a look at that. Have a look at how much of that you can do. If you haven't yet, who knows what industry sector they want to work in? Do you know what sector? Yeah? That's pretty good so far, because quite often we still don't know. And one of the reasons I think that we go to university is because we don't know what we want to do. And it feels like it's kind of a step to help you do something better when you get there with the ticket of I've got a degree. And a lot of going through university is about understanding, maybe actually it's about understanding things you don't like, yeah? But it is particularly about understanding some of the things that you do like, some of the things that you're comfortable with, some of the things that you really enjoy. And it's like, right, okay, how do I get that from my career? So now you're ready to start. So if you haven't done yet, talk to a careers advisor, they are wonderful. But start following the announcements that they have. So careers fairs. This is not just me talking now, this is fact. Go to a careers fair, and I advise my first year students, and they're just like, oh, what's she on? You go to a careers fair in the first year, and you start talking to people. And then as soon as you step away from talking to someone, you write a note or in your phone. I do little voice memos all the time. I've just spoken to whoever from wherever, and they mentioned X, Y, Z. Then you go there again next time, you go next year, may well not be the same person, because often it's the graduates on placement, the undergrads on placement who are there, but you say, oh, I spoke to somebody or other, you've got their name because you've prepped. I spoke to Jo last year at the careers fair, and she was talking about how GE does this, and I went away and I had a look, and I found ABC on your website, and it's like, oh, it really looks like you've moved. Suddenly, this person who's got a recruiter hovering in the background is writing down your name. Right? They are writing down your name. They have hit lists, they have top lists, they have top talent. Yeah? If you can show that you are proactive, that you're researching, that you're interested, that you're passionate, you're organised, yeah, there are a lot of skills you've demonstrated in that little scenario. They're getting interested and excited about you. So these opportunities that the university puts on, try and get out there, they're really good. But think about how do you make that meaningful. It's not just about collecting business cards, you want them to remember you as well. So think about how you put meaning in that, it'd be really helpful. Everything that Bev said, really? Yeah? Leave that bit. I would do definitely the bit about do not send the same CV and the same cover letter to everybody just with changing the company name. Yeah? Don't do that. Even if it is just the first sentence, because that's what grabs someone or doesn't. Yeah? The first sentence in your cover letter needs to be something that is well thought, well considered about you and the benefits of the organisation of them employing you to do that job. Yeah? You've heard about in marketing what's in it for me. When you come into your covering letter and your CV, you're putting yourself in the shoes of the employer. What's in it for them to hire me? Why me? So think about that. A lovely picture of the career centre. You know where that is? Yeah, just outside the library. Still there, but go in and say hello. Yeah? Go and say hello to it. If you haven't been in, go in. Yeah? So that's them open, and the slides will all be up for you later. Yes? Yeah? Brilliant. So you've got their contact details there as well, so you can have a look. Yeah? And what do they offer? So we've got the link to my career hub, which has these Ab Integro resources. Do go in there and have a look. There's some really cool stuff actually, but they also do things about how they'll help you in terms of thinking about your employability, some of the other ideas, but we've mentioned them already, you'll know those. They can help you with career options. because we only know what we know, yeah? And you've heard that stuff about we don't know what we don't know. Sometimes doing a placement can be about going out into an organisation and then realising, okay, that's not the industry sector for me. But sometimes it can be about, actually, I'd never even thought about retail. This job happened to come up. I really like this sector. I really like this sector. So they can help you think about things that maybe you've not thought about at all. Yeah. So in terms of what do they offer loads. Literally loads. So be talking to those people. But Bev mentioned video interviewing, and she mentioned a slightly different one where you record your own video, but large organisations are also doing, has anybody done the horrible one where you sit and then you press start and then the question comes up and then you've got 3 minutes to up? Yeah, you've had a go at that already? Yeah? How did you feel first time?
I don't know, but some part of the interview I felt it like I was chatting with a bot.
Yeah, okay, alright. So if you've not done one of those before, practice those. And through my career hub you can practice that. Do practice that. And there are funny little things like, on the LV they said, make sure you're making eye contact with the camera. What you can do is put a little picture of something, a little photo of your mum, or your boyfriend, or something that makes a donut. Who knows? But something that makes you feel good and something that makes you feel happy, you blue tack onto the front of your screen just beside the camera. So that you look there and it makes you smile, makes you feel happy. That's what you need, something that makes you feel happy that you're looking at, okay? But do practice those, because each time you do it again, you get better. You feel a little bit more comfortable. You're used to the process. You're getting better at thinking. They're hard because the question comes straight at you, and then it's like, well, you've got 3 minutes to answer. So practice those. All that stuff. This week, even. So, is that tomorrow? 27th of February, tomorrow. How to ace presentations. I'm walking around too much. I walk around. I don't stand. I'm not very good at standing still. And I also talk a lot with my hands because I visualise things, and I know I talk a lot with my hands. So sometimes I put a hand in my pocket, just so that I don't end up doing this all the time. But you need to think about what works for you with that, yeah? You can't put your hand in your pocket if you haven't worn something with pockets. It's all about preparation. So think about that. Women, for some reason, guys are very good at standing like this. When they do their presentations, they're very good at standing like that. Women, when we do our presentations, for some reason, women often stand like this. Yeah? That's quite hard to stand like that for a long time. It is quite hard, and I don't know why women do this. And then the other thing is about when you're giving presentations, if you're not super comfortable, you know that a bit of tension builds up in there in your voice and a bit of, yeah? So actually a really easy way to lose some tension is just to walk through it. What you don't want to do though if you're a guy is if you're good at standing like this and then you build up the tension, you've planted your feet and it starts to go, and your leg starts to go, and it really starts to go, and it's like, it's just so distracting. So it's all about knowing yourself, see what's going on, practice it, yeah? Play it out. So sometimes walking around is kind of quite nice. What you don't want to do is be dancing, but have a play. So that is probably brilliant, and along with acing assessment centres. So there's a whole load on Careers BU. Next week there is acing interviews again. There's a CV lab next week. So have a look at those in terms of next steps. What are you going to do? Right? A career doesn't just happen. You can be really lucky. Yeah? I fell into recruitment. It was the best thing I ever did. I spent 20 years in recruitment. But I properly fell into it just by accident. I went into a temp agency thinking I was going to do some temping with a company here because I hadn't lived in Bournemouth and I was going to work out who were the good employers, what were the decent travel times, where could I get to easily. And I got offered a job as a recruitment consultant within agency, high street recruitment, and my career went from there and I loved it. But if you set objectives, if you set smart objectives, you are more likely to get somewhere and you are more likely to get where you wanted to get to. Rather than Alice in Wonderland and the Cheshire Cat, Yeah? Cheshire Cat told Alice, just keep going, you'll get there. If you don't know where you want to go, you're going to get somewhere. So that's fine, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. That's not necessarily a strategic approach to your career. Yeah? So have a look at that. So book an appointment if you haven't. Have we got time for this little quick?
Yeah, I think so. It's very quick.
It's really quick, really quick.
Yeah.
Use your phones, use your laptops if you've got them. Go to icloud.com/buzz-quiz and do that quiz. It is very quick. But it's quite nice because it's about you. Yeah, this is something for you and it will give you some personal insight, which is always nice. What you might not do is have time to discuss it with other people. Yeah. But do the quiz so that you have your score. There's no right or wrong. It's working when you get there, yeah? Yeah. Yeah, good. You're going to get asked some questions. Don't overthink these at the moment. You can always go back and have another go, but for now, don't overthink them. Just instinctively, does that feel like you? Does that not feel like you? It should take you 5 minutes max to do this quiz. Yeah.
I did it.
Yeah, it's fast, isn't it?
I was explaining to you for a long time ago as well.
I want a race for who gets to that final result. When you get there. It's fun, it's a fun quiz. It's quite, oh, we've got results in, brilliant. You're a black bear, brilliant, we're getting some results in. So we've got a polar bear, we've got a black bear so far. You can have a look at what they say. There's actually, although it's fun and it's a nice little quiz, there's some validity within those questions, in fact. If you've done Myers-Briggs, you'll recognise there's some similarity in some of those questions. But there is some...
Tawny owl.
Tawny owl, we've got another one, brilliant, good. The 3 different ones so far, which is nice. Anyone else want to volunteer? Where have you got? I think I came out as a falcon, I think. There were 2 things that were quite similar, 2 birds, I can't really think it was a falcon.
Yeah,
Tawny owl, good. So, barn owl, alright, so we've got no water animals yet. Seahorse, oh, we've got water birds, brilliant, good, well done. I love seahorse, right. So keep going, do this thing, but can I ask that part of this you need to do, part of your Global Talent Programme badge, you need to do some reflection afterwards, yeah? What would be really nice, I think, is to just have a look at what the site says about the animal that you have been identified as, yeah? And then think about that in terms of careers, yeah? What's that going to mean? So there it's saying that naturally you would tend to prefer this to that, yeah? So think about that in terms of your careers and have a look. And think about strengths and weaknesses as well, yeah? Weaknesses, I struggle with the word weakness, because if you are brilliant at one thing, it is almost certain that there's kind of a yin and yang, yeah? If you are brilliant at, you're really innovative, you're really creative, you're really blah, 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 you are probably not wonderful at detail. So weaknesses are often acceptable weaknesses. So it doesn't matter that you have weaknesses. Don't feel you can't have weaknesses. What they often show is that you are amazing at another thing, the other side of it. So I did kind of struggle there, but do think about it, because it's important that you are aware of them. You need to know so that you don't set yourself up to go in a job which is project management, which is all about the detail. Yeah? Alright, I think that is what I want to say. Sorry, that was a bit fast. But thank you, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Hi everyone. Hello everyone. Hi everyone. I'm kind of an interactive person, so if you don't respond, I won't say anything. So, my name is Ade from the Student Union. So I'm here to talk to everyone here, and it's so fantastic you guys are taking opportunity or liberty of what is actually available. So now I just want to talk to you about this campaign called More Than Just a Degree. Being a student, current student, graduated 2 years ago. I graduated 2018 and been elected as considered 2 times running president. We as the full-time officers we've been able to come about to draw about a campaign called More Than Just a Degree. The title of the campaign is simple and it is More Than Just a Degree. Pretty much being in school, we already know fair enough being it's more about certificate, doing academics, but this campaign is running more about your soft skills, entrepreneurship, and business school, mortgages and finances, and more about branding and personal branding. So pretty much, not to worry, don't think you're going to pay for any of this workshop or any of the sessions that will be made available. So what I'm trying to tell you that pretty much, please try much as possible to make yourself available. It's worth it. Pretty much, you just have to just turn up, but of course you just have to sign up via the Eventbrite to be able to book your ticket for the sessions and the workshop. So the most interesting one that will be happening, which is on the 24th of March, like Rebecca did mention, is the resume, and I will really want everyone to actually come around. It's going to be called the CV Speed Dating. It's going to be a 10-minute slot. You have the career advisors and the PDAs. What I mean PDAs, I'm talking about placement development advisors and the placement advisors who are there to help you to overcheck your resume. You have 5 minutes slot to be checking your resume. Even though if you're from SciTech, whatever course you're from, you have the opportunity from the hours of 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. just at this future graph or the ports. So more information will be done about that. And later on from that, we'll be having a workshop symposium. We'll be hearing from like-minded from a career advisor, an HR recruiter, and a placement coordinator, and 2 current students who are on placement and a graduating student who just went on placement to share their experience about what it takes to actually package, brand yourself, and what to know more, to have the details about what you need to know about branding and packaging yourself as a particular brand. And not to forget as well, there's more about, I never knew how to save money. You know, who knows how to save money here? You know how to save money. Trust me, I don't even know how to save money. So there are going to be experts coming on the 7th of April who are they're going to be sharing more insight about how to save money, more particularly mortgages as well. So I didn't know how to save money. There's no school of thought or school of economics that says this is how you have to save money. So grab your bag, grab the ticket. I'm just here to talk about this campaign, and I hope you guys come around to share better experience and get better equipped during your stay in BU. Thank you very much.
Right, yeah, that becomes the end of our session. I'm just going to do a couple more slides before you rush off, hopefully. So, as we said, it's all about self-reflection at these sessions, so please do complete the reflection. That is the other side of this core activity, as well as uploading evidence that you've been here. This is what you need to do. It's also on the portal as well, so I won't keep the slide up too long here. And also please do complete our feedback survey as I ask every time. It really helps us to improve these sessions for you. So some of the upcoming opportunities that are available, as well as the Work It workshops that we have already said. We've got the Spring Recruitment Fair, so we're talking about careers fairs. There's one coming up, so please do get involved with that. Thursday 19th of March in the Student Centre. So there'll be companies there with part-time jobs, with placement opportunities and graduate opportunities, so it is really for everybody. We also have 20 free Institute of Director memberships available for students. We've actually got the forms here today if you are interested in signing up for that. If you want a bit more information about what the Institute of Directors is and what the membership gives you, then please do come to the Careers Centre and talk this through with our graduate employment team, because it's a wealth of resources that could be really useful for you. Yes, I put CV here because there's so many tools on My Career Hub that allow you to review your CV. So we've got a new tool called CV 360, which has been launched recently, which you can actually put your CV into, and it will give you an immediate response on what you could change to make it better. So we always advise you to do that before coming to see a careers advisor about your CV. So you've done that first initial step. So do check that out. We also have a CV checklist on My Career Hub as well. Just to advertise next week as well, so for those of you who are postgraduate students or undergraduate students that want to do the Discipline Researcher badge, we have the Project Lab. We're calling it the Global Sustainable Project Lab this year because the focus of the challenge will be on sustainability in the local area. It's a two-part challenge. The first session's next week, where we'll be giving you a project management masterclass, so working on project management theory and the skills around that. And you will be listening to kind of experts in this area on that day, but also we'll be putting you into groups to go away and work on a real-life challenge that could impact the local employer. So the winning team, we ask you to present your idea at the second session, so the winning team would actually be able to write a bid to JP Morgan for funding for that project. So it's a really, really good experience for those of you that want to come along to that. So please do book for that so that we know how many are coming via My Career Hub as well. Just to add, because we're coming to the end of our academic year for the Global Talent Programme, we do hold an awards ceremony each year for those of you that complete the award before the deadline. So this year the deadline is the 1st of May if you do want to complete, if you're a final year student. If you're not, then please, we will continue next year. But if you did want to round off your efforts for this year, then please do make sure you've uploaded your evidence by the 1st of May on the portal. We will have some support sessions Alexandra will be running, which you will advertise as well in the upcoming